Racing is an activity that is part man, part machine. Great controversy rages over just how much man versus how much machine it takes to win. One thing is certain, a great car is useless unless driven by a good driver, and at the top levels of racing, a great driver has no chance without a good car. NASCAR Racing 2002 season provides you with a good car. It actually provides you with an infinite number of good cars, which is a pretty good deal. Your car can be changed in many ways by tinkering in the garage or in the pits. A car's setup is a particular set of choices about all these changes. In the garage, you can select one of several default setups, which provide a predictable, good car to drive without having to know the details, or you can dive into the details. This lesson will cover a few key ideas that are good to know as you start tinkering in the garage. Until you feel that you have mastered driving these cars, you may not be able to tell when you have changed something for the better or worse. Before changing anything in the garage, work on driving consistent, repeatable laps. Only when you can do this will you be able to pinpoint how a particular change in the garage affects your car's handling. Really fast setups can require considerable skill, and the beginning driver is likely to think a great car is an awful one. In short, until you are a good driver, don't worry about trying to make a great car. The default setups can help you become a good driver. The easy setup is made for the beginning driver. It will track in a straight line with the steering wheel centered, and the front tires will tend to start sliding first, making the car behave more like a street car. It's best to start with the easy setup and stay with it until you can put the car where you want it on the racetrack. Once you are able to lap consistently, try switching to the intermediate setup. This is more like a real oval car setup, and it will pull to the left down the straights. Once you get the hang of this, switch to the fast setup. Now you will need to develop the skill to balance the car while it's skidding around the turns. When you're looking for even more speed, it's time to go to the garage. As you can see, there are a lot of changes you can make in the garage. Clicking the right mouse button over any of the items will show you a short explanation of that item's effects on the car. The settings generally involve three things: trying to stick the tires to the road better, finding a balance between grip and top speed, and finding a balance between speed and reliability. Most of the settings in the garage are for fiddling with how well the tires stick to the road. The more grip the tires have, the faster you can go in the corners, and the fastest driver in the corners usually has the highest average speed for a whole lap. There are many things that affect the tire's grip with the road, but the three most important are how much rubber is in contact with the road, how sticky that rubber is, and how much weight that tire is carrying. How much rubber is in contact with the road is affected by the tire pressures. A lower pressure makes a bigger patch of rubber. And camber, which is how much the tire is leaning over. The best grip is usually found with the tire leaning slightly into the turn. Unfortunately, when the car is moving, the camber is changing all the time. For example, when the car body rolls in a corner, and the tire pressure changes as the tire heats up. Fortunately, the tire temperatures from your last run are shown in the garage so you can figure out if the pressures and cambers are okay. After a few laps, the tire temperatures will settle down to values which tend to remain the same from lap to lap. This may take 5 to 7 laps. The temperatures are shown for each tire at the inside edge, I, middle, M, and outside edge, O. What you want to see on an oval is a slightly higher temperature on the left edge, the inside on right-hand tires, outside on the left tires, and a middle temperature that is about the average of the inside and outside temperatures. On a road course, you like to see slightly higher temperatures on the inside edges. If that's what you're seeing, then the cambers and pressures are close to their optimal setting for grip. If either edge is too hot, there is probably too much camber on that tire. It is leaning over too much in the corners. Negative camber will heat up the inside edge more. Positive camber will heat up the outside edge. If the middle temperature is too hot, you may be running too much pressure. The temperatures can also tell you how sticky the tire is. They stick best at an average temperature of 190 to 240 degrees. If a certain tire is too hot, increasing the pressure can help cool it off. Conversely, lowering the pressure in a tire that's too cool can help heat it up. The other way to change the temperature of a tire is to put more or less weight on it. That is where a lot of the other settings come in. When your car is sitting still in the garage, each corner is weighed, and the results can be seen by clicking the Weight Bias tab. Ballast blocks can be moved around in the car to change how much weight is on the left side or on the front. You can also put more or less weight on the diagonally opposite wheels. This is called wedge. The settings under the Weight Bias tab allow you to change what are called the static corner weights. This is how much each corner weighs sitting still or static in the garage. As soon as you start driving around the racetrack, however, the corner weights change constantly. Accelerating puts more weight on the rear tires. Braking puts more weight on the front tires. Cornering puts more weight on the outside tires, the right side on an oval. The primary suspension settings, springs, shocks, and sway bars, all affect how much weight shifts to each particular corner while maneuvering around the track. What's important to understand is that we want each one of the 4 tires doing as much work as it can. We don't want any freeloading tires. Anytime one tire has more weight on it than another tire, it is probably working harder, and both those tires together won't have as much grip as they would if both worked equally hard. Balancing the work done by the 4 tires will consume most of your effort in the garage. The tire temperatures can help again with this. If 2 tires are working equally hard, they will likely end up at a similar average temperature. So ideally, we'd like all 4 tires to be at the same temperature, but this won't happen in reality. There is no way within the regulations to get the left side tires to work as hard as the right side tires on an oval. But the closer you can get to that goal, the faster you are likely to be. What makes tuning a car's handling complicated is that every change can affect everything else. It's a bit like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube. Fortunately, there are many combinations of settings that give a really fast and well-handling race car, and you get to tailor that handling just the way you like it. No 2 people seem to like the same setup, and that's what makes it interesting. Once you're lapping consistently and have decided to poke your head into the garage, don't be afraid to play around. After all, you can always revert to the default setups if you really mess things up, and remember that you have an infinite supply of cars to test. The weather can have a significant effect on your car. A car setup that works just fine at 70 degrees with no wind may turn into a real handful once the mercury rises and the wind starts to blow. Let's go over the weather variables in the game one at a time. The track temperature is higher on a sunny day than it is on a cloudy day. A higher track temperature means that your tires will heat up more quickly, but it also means that they'll run hotter all the way through the run, and that will increase their wear rate. As its temperature rises, air becomes less dense. That means that your engine won't put out as much power. Change your gearing to compensate. Higher air temperatures also mean higher oil and water temperatures, which may force you to remove tape from the grill in order to prevent overheating. Finally, higher air temperature means a higher track temperature, and that translates to accelerated tire wear. The wind can wreak havoc with your car's handling. A headwind will slow you down and cause your car to push. A tailwind will speed you up and make you loose. And a crosswind will simply push you across the racetrack. The stronger the wind, the more magnified these effects become. If a tailwind is pushing you to the point of causing the engine to over-rev, you can change your gearing or remove some grill tape to compensate. To compensate for a crosswind, you'll just need to adapt your driving style to deal with it. Qualifying is an important part of NASCAR racing, especially if you're running in a short race. In qualifying, your only concern is getting 1 or 2 hot laps out of your car, and that's it. With that in mind, here are a couple of quick tips that will help you get the most out of your qualifying setup. First, tape that grill up as much as you can. Remember, your engine only has to last for a couple of laps. Second, use higher tire pressures. Over the course of just a couple of laps, you're not going to get a lot of heat into those tires, so they won't reach the optimal pressure unless you start them higher than usual. And that wraps up our final lesson. Now you'll want to move on to the next step of your racing education, and that involves finding out what makes each track tick. NASCAR Racing 2002 season includes a series of track tours narrated by 3-time NASCAR champion Darrell Waltrip that will help you do exactly that.